Scottt O'Dell is the author of 20 books for children and young adults that have won him national and international acclaim. With his wife Elizabeth, he lives in a remote woodland setting in Westchester County, New York. He draws heavily on experience in the natural world for his writing, and nature plays a major part in the way he lives each day.
I wake up usually about 4 o'clock in the morning and lie in bed between sleeping and waking, cultivating my subconscious mind, the mind that we dream with. And I go over what I'm going to write that day. Not line by line, but rather thoroughly. And when I get up, I walk the dog and I get breakfast, and I usually am at work by 5 to 5:30. I sort of kid myself and pretend that I'm somebody else. So when I quit writing at noon or thereabouts the previous day, I stop in the middle of a paragraph. The paragraph that is pretty well organized and I know how it ends, so that when I start writing, I can pick it up at that point and prime the pump, so to speak. And I write for a couple of hours, and then I go for the mail, and the mail is not too disturbing. There are not too many bills to pay. I'm back in a half hour and work rather steadily till noon. And then I knock off, and sometimes late in the afternoon I come back at 4 o'clock and work to 5:30. But the story is never out of your mind. When you're writing, it's there in your subconscious, in your conscious mind. You're aware of it. I do a lot of rewriting, and not say when I've finished a chapter, but when I've finished a paragraph, and extensively to the point that I can no longer read what I've written, and I cross it out and start over again. And this will be the second draft, and I'm only on one page. And I have there probably, although it's a page, it's only about 50 words. There are other methods of people who make a first draft. And if I were giving advice to a writer, I would say, write very rapidly and go through your whole story rapidly. And then go back and change things, because there is enthusiasm in that first draft.
A master storyteller, Scottt O'Dell has been writing books for children for over 25 years. His books explore a wide variety of subjects, including Mayan and Inca history, the Spanish hunt for the 7 cities of gold, and William Tyndall, translator of the Bible, whose story he relates in The Hawk That Dare Not Hunt by Day.
Well, Tyndall is important because he gave the shape and the thrust, the tone, the elegance to the English language, which was pretty rough before. And out of the King James Version of the Sermon on the Mount, the King James Version was put together 100 years after Tyndall was burned at the stake for having translated the Bible. 242 words of the Sermon on the Mount are Tyndall.
Every book Scott writes has been thoroughly researched. Before he began The Hawk That Dare Not Hunt by Day, he and Elizabeth traveled extensively in Europe, following Tyndall's path.
We went to England. We went to Oxford, where he was graduated. And we followed his footsteps to St. Albans, where he preached in London on Fleet Street. We followed him through Germany, where they thought he might be hiding, to the Low Country, to Brussels, to Vilvoorde Castle, to the marketplace in front of Vilvoorde, where on a market day he was taken out and choked to death and then burned at the stake.
Another figure who intrigued Scott was Karana, the main character in his first children's book, Island of the Blue Dolphins. Published in 1960, it is one of the most popular children's books of all time.
I heard about Karana, the heroine of Island of the Blue Dolphins, around 1920. There was a short article in Harper's magazine, 1892, just a brief, very brief article about her, because little was known. And it interested me at the time. I had no thought of doing a story about it, but I thought it was interesting. And over the years, it would crop up occasionally in writing about Santa Barbara. Newspapers would pick it up. And then I got into a writer's block, and I'd been writing adult books, and I was at a place where I wasn't exactly satisfied with what I was doing. And I got this great hatred of the hunters that came into the mountains where I lived on the Mexican border. And that hatred combined itself with the memory of this legend about the girl on the island, 18 years alone. And one served as a catalyst to the other, and it became an idea, not for a book exactly, but just something that I wanted to say really to myself, and to sort this out. In Island of the Blue Dolphins were two themes. One was a reverence for all life, which is Schweitzer's idea. The other is a Christian ideal of forgiveness.
Scott O'Dell created Island of the Blue Dolphins while he was living in California. A few years ago, he wrote Sarah Bishop, a Revolutionary War story set quite near where he now lives in New York.
The cave had been here for a long, long time. Likely it had sheltered many. It had sheltered those who had been here last, and they in turn had left. I went to the mouth of the cave and looked out. The sun was behind a ridge. It was a dark time before the real dawn. Below me at the foot of the wooded slope were two small ponds, and between them a deep blue lake that stretched away to the west. It was a beautiful land that lay there in the shadows before dawn. Yes, I said to myself, I have gone as far as I will go. Now let's walk up the path through the forest a ways, and I'll show you where the cave is. The cave is just, you go down the end of the lake and take a trail over that ridge, and at the head of the neck there's a lake just over this ridge called Wakabuck. The word Wakabuck in Delaware Indian means long pond. And just over the ridge, just beyond, at the head of Wakabuck Lake, is the cave. And that's where she lived for 5 or 6 years.
Like many books by Scott O'Dell, Sarah Bishop recounts the survival of a strong woman character against tremendous odds.
I think it's an important theme of the reliance of girls. They've been pushed around and made really second-class citizens because their mothers are second-class citizens. In my lifetime, the women didn't have a vote, and now they're fighting to have equal rights in the law. And the fight is not over yet. And this recurrent theme is just that, celebrating womanhood, that they are human beings, that they do have guts, and that they can do things that men do, and that they deserve and have won respect.
Because of his books, Scott O'Dell has gained an audience of millions of readers from all over the world. He receives hundreds of letters from these readers each year, often from an entire class of students.
One of the many compensations for writing books for children is the response you get from children by letter, by phone, by cartoons, by pictures, crayon pictures, finger painting, pencil drawings. Most of them are complimentary, and some of them are rather funny, and some you wish you'd never gotten. For instance, a little girl in Minnesota, and she wrote, and she asked about 15 or 20 questions, and I didn't respond immediately. In about a week or 10 days, I got another letter from her, and she said, "Well, I haven't heard from you in a week or so, and if I don't hear in another week or so, I'm going to send a letter to another writer, a lady. Anyway, I like her writing better than yours." The pleasing thing about it that they increase every year in number, and the continuity of writing for children, and it's due principally to the teachers and the librarians, and they keep the stories alive.
As well as letters, Scott frequently gets phone calls from classes of students.
Everybody asks you questions about your writing, but would you mind telling us what your favorite foods are and what's your favorite hobby?
My favorite food would be, in the order of presentation, potatoes, fried, boiled, baked, country style, home style, restaurant style. The next would be some form of pasta, fettuccine, spaghetti. There are actually some 65 different varieties of pasta. And the next down the line would be rice cakes. On Sundays, I usually make rice pancakes, and I put in the rice pancakes blueberries and walnuts. The hobbies are probably traveling, if that can be considered a hobby. It's certainly one of my source of greatest pleasure. And I like to plant trees. I like to raise a garden, all the vegetables that will grow here. And I like to fish, and I've fished over a good part of the world, in Alaska, Baja California, Mexico, Spain.
Scott O'Dell has won almost every major award given to writers of children's books. The Hans Christian Andersen Medal, awarded under the auspices of 15 countries for a body of work. The Newbery Medal for Island of the Blue Dolphins. The Regina Medal of the Catholic Library Association. The German Jugendbuch Prize. The William Allen White Award. And the de Grummond Medal, among others. His work has been translated into more than a dozen languages. This collection shows some of the foreign editions of Island of the Blue Dolphins. Though his work has a worldwide appeal, Scott O'Dell's books are completely grounded in the history of the Americas, the natural world, and the details of the landscape that he and his wife Elizabeth so love.